What's up, guys? All right, welcome to the channel. I thought I would make like a video. I'd never really done one of these videos to kind of like tell the ham radio hack story of like how I got started on YouTube and where I'm at now and where I was like a year ago or a year before that. But I got into amateur radio in like 2013, somewhere around that. When I was a kid, I used to go to the library and get the ARRL books and read them. And I had a friend that I went to school with that had a technician license and eventually general back in the 80s. And I got a CB radio. I was like 12, maybe 13, somewhere around there. 12 or 13, maybe 11, I don't even know. And I was on the air for about a year. And I met some people in my neighborhood, and we had a lot of fun with the radio stuff. And then just kind of after that, that was it. No more radio. I got into other stuff, started buying dirt bikes and things like that. So many years later, I bought a Jeep. I put a CB radio in it. I heard some guys talking. I talked to them, and that was about it. We used to use them when we would go out four-wheeling, and that's it. I've got a background in electronics. I went to college for television repair in the 90s and never ever did anything with that. I've basically been an auto mechanic most of my life, off and on. I'm a sober alcoholic with over 10 years sobriety. And it took me a long time to get sober, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. So, that's kind of a big part of my story. So, let's see. So I think, let's see. I found a CB radio that I had when I was a kid at a thrift store in Seattle, and I bought it, and I took it home, and I hooked it up, and I made a homemade antenna out of some magnet wire that we had laying around from something else. And I hung the wire out my window, and I could hear some people talking. And then I made a dipole from a diagram that I found on the internet, and didn't really work all that great, but didn't work that bad. I could hear local people. I didn't have an actual like legitimate power supply. I think I was using like a wall wart or something just to listen. And then I found an antenna from some other thrift store, put it on my vehicle. I was able to talk to some people, and they were like, dude, you need to get your ham radio license. And then I met up with one guy. He's still, I hear him on 80 meters every once in a while. I can't remember his call sign. It's like ZYV, some weird crap. His name's Ken. And Ken sold me a couple of export radios and some other stuff, and then hooked me up with some other people that had stuff for affordable, and then I would talk to these guys on Channel 8 up there in Everett, Washington, and almost all of them were hams. And then I got my license really quickly, like within a month of that, right? I studied on QRZ, and after I was like, okay, I'm getting like 85-90% on this. I looked up on the internet, and like, oh, where can I go take my test? So, Shelton, Washington, I drove all the way down there from Everett. I'd been up all damn night studying, and I just like was like, okay, I'm not going to bed. I'm going to drive down here. I'm going to take the test. I went down there and took the test. I passed. They handed me the general. I missed it by like 4 questions. And I really was like, dude, I'm not ready to take this test. The guy's like, just take it, man. You did really good. And so then I had to wait like at least 2 weeks to get my call sign. It was like not fast back then. That was January. I actually had my call sign before I knew I had it, because they sent me a piece of paper in the mail, and I could have actually, I think it might have already had it like 5 days earlier. And then, so I had like this Uniden Grant radio, an ICOM 718, that somebody told me to buy from this shady dude named Bruce. And we won't get into the Bruce story, but he charged me too much for that radio because I had something else. I had a 2-meter handheld that he wanted, and I wouldn't trade him because he didn't have what I needed. I needed a power supply. So and he was trying to trade me some junk. So I ended up paying, like, at that point, it was a $400 radio, $350 radio. They were barely 500 and something new. So in 2013, when I bought that radio, the ICOM 718 was on sale for $4.99 from like HRO and places like that. So I got screwed buying a used one that had been sold probably 2 or 3 times for $500. And I unlocked that radio and used it on CB radio illegally and talked to lots of people all over the place. But nobody on Channel 8 liked the way that radio sounded on AM, so I just used my Uniden Grant. And we're talking, this is all in a period of like 1 month, 2 months, something like that. Like I had that radio a month before I got my actual license. I learned real quickly I didn't really want to be on CB radio for like sideband or anything like that. I wanted to just talk to the local guys and rag chew on AM. But pretty much shortly after that, I moved to Oregon. So I had the 718, the Uniden Grant, and a Bofang UV5RA, and I still have that damn thing. And I moved to Oregon, Southern Oregon, Medford, and met some local people on 10 meters, met some people on the repeaters, met some not so nice people down there, and studied up, and I think I moved there. I moved there on Valentine's Day 2014, and I think around June that year I got my General, started getting on the Triple H net at night. I had a Swan 350 and the 718 and a Magnum 257 in the vehicle for 10 meter stuff, and I quickly realized I wanted my extra, so I just started studying for the extra. And then I think so June I got my General, and then like January or February of 2015 I passed my extra. Maybe it was March. I don't have to look. I had my license up on the wall. Every time you move, it changes, so that doesn't really matter. But the very beginning of 2015, I got my extra. So basically, about a little over a year, I went from tech to extra, and it really wasn't as hard as everybody said. There wasn't all this complicated graphs and Smith charts or anything on it. I did not get a single question wrong on my extra, if that means anything to anybody. Either I'm really smart or I'm really good at remembering everything. And I have a bad memory, guys. I really do. Short term, anyway. So, if I can do it, I think almost anybody can. But anyway, so that's kind of how all that stuff happened. I was never really a CBer. I had more time on the CB radio as a kid than I have as an adult. All the guys that are up there in Everett, Washington, Pressman, and all these other dudes. Pressman's dead, by the way. Poor guy. Died of pneumonia like last month or the month before. All these Channel 8 dudes are like Kevin and even Dirty Old Frank. And a few other people. Let's see. Ken moved. I kind of like quickly gravitated towards the guys that were more exclusively ham radio, like Jim Fish and those guys. and Jim hooked me up with a really good ICOM radio. Um, and less of the CB dudes, because a lot of the CB guys, they didn't want to, they're like the guy Frank, he was just like, I just have a ham license so that I can't get in trouble. I'm like, that's not going to stop you from getting in trouble. But that was kind of the mentality of a lot of those guys, and I just, like, for me, I didn't understand it, and I didn't understand, like, people playing music, jamming each other, arguing, threatening each other on the radio. It was entertaining, but it wasn't really like my cup of tea. So I kind of got more into the ham side, and then I met the repeater people, and I'm like, whoa, oh my God, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you guys, you know. And so then I moved to Oregon, same shit. Whoa, we don't ask for radio checks on this repeater system, blah, blah, this isn't CB radio. Yeah, there was this douchebag dude that had a place in Eugene called Buddy's Diner. I can't remember his name, but I remember the Buddy's Diner thing, and it was like the Peak Radio Association or something. They had repeaters linked from Northern California all the way up to like Vancouver, Washington. And they had some really interesting tech nets and things like that, but they had this dude who was like the administrator, and he owned this Buddy's Diner thing, and he was just kind of an arrogant prick. And he was probably a younger guy, maybe younger than me, I don't know. But he was a dick, and I sent him a nasty email. I'm like, dude, you're ass. You're running people off that are new. These guys don't know anything. They need help. Instead of being a dick and telling them don't ask for radio checks, help them. And he sent me a very nasty reply. Anyway, and that was kind of like, he's just one of a lot of other people that are that way on the repeaters. And they're very cliquey, and then they had like this old dude that was in Ashland, and he owned a bunch of the repeaters. So this dude literally sucked this guy's butt, you know, kissed him, you know, because he's like, he acted like he was God. And it's probably because that guy had something to do with the other guy's livelihood. And anyway, so it was very, very weird. And then I met my friend Steve down there. He lived in Central Point back then, and we used to talk on 10 meters a lot. And I learned quite a bit about Yaesu radios from Steve when I was new. Steve, you know, had the 101 and all that stuff. He still had it back then. Probably should have tried to buy it from him. He ended up selling it to somebody else. And then I got all these radios now, so now I get to show Steve, hey, look, I got this one, I have that one. But Steve was one of these guys that was like really cool. He's what do you call it? Is it a tech plus? No, a novice. He's had his license since the 80s, and he can't use 2 meters, but he can use 220, and he can do CW on any band. Steve, you'll have to chime in. I know he watches the channel once in a while. Anyway, so, and he just doesn't want to take the test. I keep telling him, Steve, come on, study. Because it's a pain in the ass for him, because he's going to have to take his tech. And he's got to pass his tech. Then he's got to go pass his general. And he just, you know, older, been on the radio forever, not on the radio probably as much as some of us are, and so it's not like his number one priority. But I don't think he realizes how much he probably did for me in the beginning, like being a new ham and you know, talking to me on 10 meters, and I would test different antennas. I lived like across town from him, and I learned a lot from him, you know. So and here he is, he's not even a tech, and he taught me a ton of crap. So it's kind of you know, like a lot of other things are, you know. So it doesn't matter the license that the person holds. They have experience, you know, and you can learn anything from anybody, really, unless you think you know everything already. But anyway, I moved a couple more times. I started to sell stuff on eBay, do stuff like that in like 2015. I started fixing radios a lot. I would buy a bunch of broken CB radios and fix them and sell them on eBay. I would look for equipment on Craigslist. I would look for broken radios. I started buying older equipment, Swans, early Yaesus, early ICOMs, Kenwoods, all that kind of stuff. And in Oregon, I don't even think they had a ham fest there. I never been to a ham fest in Oregon, but I took both my general and my tech or general and extra at the Fruitdale Grange there in Grants Pass, Oregon. But I think maybe they might have had a ham fest like maybe once, but I didn't go to it because I think I was working or something. And then I moved from Oregon to Arizona for a little while, and I moved to Casa Grande, and I'm like, holy crap, this place looks really weird. Everybody drives really nice cars. They all don't appear to work. None of them are white. Is this what they're talking about? I don't want to say what I'm, and I'm like, are these people all like part of some organization? I'm like, they weren't like retirement age. They were like, I mean, how do I phrase this without sounding wrong? They were middle-aged to young Hispanic people with expensive cars that did not work all over the place. And I thought, man, this whole town is nuts. And so I didn't live there very long. I was just like, that's what Casa Grande looked like to me, to my first impression, having been up and down the West Coast. And so I didn't want to stay here long, and I got the hell out of here, and I moved to Redding, California. I rented a room and lived with a bunch of Mormons that were really, really cool. They were nice, but eventually they didn't want me living there anymore. And they let me put up all kinds of antennas and everything, and they were pretty cool about that. The guy's name is James and his wife Samantha, and their autistic kid. He wasn't really autistic. They said he was, but he seemed pretty normal to me. I mean, our older kid is on the spectrum, and this kid was way more high functioning than him. But anyway, I lived with them for a while, met a lot of really cool people like Dawn up there in Whitmore, and we would go to the, oh God, what is this place? It's in Redding. It's like a Denny's style type restaurant, and I think it was every Tuesday, all these ham guys would meet up there, all much older than me, and we would wheel and deal stuff. I traded some radios to Dawn. I still have my MFJ 989C that I got from Dawn. I traded him my ICOM 718. I bought a Dentron GLA 1000B amp from him. Some other stuff. He loaned me some other stuff. He traded me some other stuff. Really, a lot of these guys were really influential, and they maybe didn't know it. I don't really talk to them anymore. W1NV. He used to say Wise One North Valley. And I guess where I lived used to be called North Valley. I lived on the Shasta Dam exit. But anyway, so Dawn and all these guys, we would drive out to this place, and we're all at least 20 minutes from there. And we would talk on 2-meter simplex. And then there was some repeaters and stuff. There was a lot of activity on the radio in Redding as far as that goes. There was a couple of guys, they were like the Bobsey twins. They both had Kenwood 440s, and they talked on 10 meters, and they were techs. Or I don't know, maybe one guy drove a transit bus, and I want to say his name was Dave. And he lived really close to me because when he keyed up, I knew. And then he had his buddy. And so I used to talk to those guys at night on the radio. I would get new radios and test them, and they'd be give me signal reports and all that. And eventually I had to move out of that place, and then I moved to, Lake Shastina outside of Weed. and set up a pretty big loop antenna. Played around on the radio, and you know, by this time I'd already set up a loop at like 3 different places, and so I was starting to see that the loop always seemed to outperform the dipole. But I was always trying different things. I was also doing a lot of 40-meter mobile with ham sticks. I forgot somewhere in here that I had picked up an ICOM 751 and a ICOM 706 and a couple of other things, and I did mobile quite a bit on 40. But just kind of, you know, traveling around, and then eventually I moved back up to Oregon, back to California, back to Oregon, back to Washington, and then so then we ended up moving here in 2016, right after my son was born, and basically Arizona has been one non-stop ham fest after another for quite a while. And every radio that Steve and all those guys ever told me about, I was able to pretty much find every single damn old 80s Yaesu at a ham fest for a reasonable price. And so I did a whole lot of that for a while, and I learned to fix some I couldn't figure out. I met other people on the radio on 3913, like K6AFS, and we'd meet up, and he would take the radio and fix it for me. You know, he even walked me through how to fix stuff on the air. So I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people like that. But generally speaking, I'm not like a super techie, like radio repair dude. Like, I've got a couple of 751As over here. I can't exactly figure out what's wrong with them. I had a 940 that I fixed for a year before it got fixed. But I just enjoy the hobby of doing stuff like that, and I like to make contacts far away and stuff like that. I like to have tech conversations. I don't really like to get on the radio and talk about doctor stuff. I enjoy the acquisition of equipment. I like buying stuff. I like collecting stuff. I like fixing stuff. And I used to really enjoy finding a deal, fixing it, and then selling it, and then buying something else. And I used to do that in Washington and California and Oregon, but when I moved to Arizona, things were a lot cheaper, but you couldn't sell them. So what ended up happening was I just started to accumulate radios and stuff like crazy. I couldn't get rid of them. Like, literally, you couldn't sell a 101 for $100. Whereas, like, in Washington and California and Oregon, you were getting $300 for a 101. So I would wait till I'd find one broken for like $100. Well, I was buying them for $100 here, and $100 is the most anybody will pay for one here usually. 150, you know, something like that, but that's like about it. I mean, and I remember when I first moved here, I tried to get rid of the 101 and all this other stuff. I had, this guy said, dude, I buy a whole station for $300. I mean, he's like, everything, the amp. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, you're not going to get $300 for a 101. So anyway, I kind of stopped doing the flipping and selling and stuff, and literally every time I sold something, I lost money on it, and that's been the trend for a long time now. I buy stuff, when I sell it, I lose money, I give it away. Before, I never lost a fucking dime on nothing, and I always got ahead. And it was like that for a long time, but not here. I could make a business probably out of buying stuff here and traveling to Washington or California or Oregon and reselling it, but it wouldn't be worth it. So anyway, I think in the beginning of my tinkering, after I had my General, I was learning to convert CB radios to 10 meters and stuff like that, and I made some videos. One of my first videos was a Uniden Grant converted to 10 meters with a contact with the Georgia Beacon himself, Todd, Kilo Charlie, whatever, Victor Zulu, Kilo Charlie 4, is it 4? I don't know. Anyway, we all know who he is, 28425. And that's one of my very first YouTube videos, other than I had a YouTube video of me and some buddies out racing in my Trans Am. I had a 97 Trans Am with an LS, or not an LS, wrong car. Okay, I had a 97 Trans Am, and it was the WS something or other. I can't remember. Anyway, it had an LT1 with AFR heads and an XFCI cam, something like that. I can't remember the cam. It was the biggest cam you could put in it without it really running weird. And mid-tube headers, an electric exhaust cutout, T56 transmission, and I got it from my buddy. Kept blowing up the rear end at the track. It ran like 11s. It wasn't like a fast car. But that was my first video, because I used to just have all these 5.0 Mustangs and, you know, fun cars, not fast cars. But I've always been a mechanic, so I've always had all these. I'd have like a truck that I wouldn't drive, a Honda Civic I would drive for gas mileage, and a V8 Mustang for fun. That was like kind of my thing. And I had lots of motorcycles, usually crotch rockets. But anyway, that was the first video, because we used to do the Kent street races. We'd go up to the Everett Walmart, and they had the street races there. We'd race on Boeing Road, River Road, all these different places. And I didn't really race that much. I usually just tagged along. But literally Fridays and Saturdays, you could go to the Walmart at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. The whole parking lot would be full. People would show up with their cars. It was fucking awesome, dude. I miss it. I never had seen that kind of camaraderie anywhere. And everybody knew everybody, and people would race. People would do all sorts of stuff. Sometimes they'd go to jail. But it was a lot of fun, and we did that for years. And then I don't know what happened. It just, I moved away, I came back, and they weren't doing it anymore. So, my YouTube channel started pretty much, I think, in 2011 or 12, maybe even earlier. And I never really did anything with it. And then about 2019, between 2017, 2016, I think I started to make more videos, because I was getting these old radios and fixing them, kind of documenting stuff. And so I would basically, for my own personal reference, and then I started to get people subscribing to the channel. Then I started to do portable stuff, and I started to do reviews of stuff, and eventually I was like, you know what? If I can just get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, I can make money on videos. I knew it wasn't going to be much, but so that was my goal. So between, I think, 2019 and 2023, I really got after it, and I got monetized in 2023, and I went from 1,000 subscribers in 2023 to, we're almost at 10,000 right now. We're at 9,765 last time I checked. In October, I got 2,000 subscribers in a month by doing live streams and stuff like that. And eventually, I probably made too many political comments or something, or talked about conspiracies or off-limit topics that YouTube will not warn you about. And my streams started to suffer. My views started to go down. And now we're at the point, if I do a live stream right now, there will be 4 people watching it, and they're all my friends. Okay? My friends, nobody that I don't know. Before I would get in there, I would stream. There would be like 20 people, sometimes 30. I think the most I saw was 60 one time. There would be weird comments. There would be inappropriate comments. We had to make several people moderators. It was bad. But there was, I'd get 25,000 views in a night. I mean, it was crazy. I was getting 20 or 30 subscribers a day. There was a lot of growth for my channel. I looked at a video I put out about February last year. I think I had 3,000 subscribers last February. And that puts it into perspective. I went from 2023 with 1,000 in just, well, June will be the first month I was monetized in 2023. So we're coming up close. So almost, if I could hit 10,000 before then, that would be like amazing. But I mean, that's a big jump. But I've had to figure out different things that work with the algorithm. What kind of videos do people want to watch? And the other thing is, I want to have fun doing this. I want to eventually be able to like pay my bills besides my like $200 worth of bills that I pay with the channel money. Just goes to my bills. We don't do anything with it. At first, when I first got monetized, you have to make at least $100 a month, or they don't even cut you a check. Okay, so at first, I would get money and I would go, okay, we're gonna go buy this handheld, and then we're gonna review it on the channel, and that's what I did for the first couple of months, and then I would use affiliate links with Amazon, and I would get the money from that, which is actually a gift card that they give you. You can only use it on Amazon. And I would order a radio on Amazon, and I would review it on the channel. And I did that for a while. And we're actually getting back into doing that because I feel like I've moved over to other stuff. The channel has always been focused on ham radio, but I started to make it more about a personal blog about me. I've always wanted raw, unedited content. I've always wanted it to be not like Crash Course 2.0 offline. You guys get the joke. I don't want to be like those dudes, man. I don't want to look like I am a Hollywood professional filmer. Okay? I don't need a green screen. You see what's behind me? That's my radio station. There's my 710. I've got my radio going over here, the 3000. You know? This is where I edit my videos if I do. This is where I do live streams. I have another computer right in front of me. My 3D printer is over here. My servers are over here. I have tools, telescopes, stereos, guitars in here. And it's a mess. I think it was Analog said, hey, it looks like a Chinese factory on the floor in there. I'm like, man, I might need to clean this place. But I just want to be as transparent and real as possible. And just, like, I don't want to tell you to go buy something so I can make money. I want you to tell you to go buy it because I think it's great. You know, not because, hey, you should buy this. Because otherwise I would be like trying to review expensive stuff. And like, I want to recommend to you what I would do. Like, I don't want to spend $1,200 or more on a ham radio. So like, if there's a cheaper way to do it, that's what I'm going to recommend. I'm not going to say, go, you need to go buy a 101 or else, you know. No, you need to buy a 710 because that's the cheapest radio that you can buy. Even the 7300's overpriced. But depending on which one you want, so like that's how I share my opinions and base it off of what would I do. Now I do have a 7300 and I've owned 3 of them. I really like them. I have a 710. I like it. There's things I don't like about it. I have lots of radios. I think life is too short to dump all your eggs in one basket and say, okay, I'm going to buy this FTDX 101 MP for $5,000. And I'm going to sit on the radio and do what? Brag about my $5,000 radio? I don't know. So for me, I've bought some of these radios because they're cool. I like the waterfall. I want the display. Like what I got going on over there. I have an SDR play hooked up to the 3000. But I don't want to sit here and tell you guys to buy this stuff so I can make money. I want to show you guys what I'm doing, how I'm having fun. I used to really enjoy doing live streams and getting on 20 meters and making contacts with like Laro and all those other different people and Blue Ocean X-Ray and all these other guys and Paul and the Scottish dude in Valencia, Spain. You know, all these guys. they're like on there all the time. And as we get further into the year, we'll get back into that. But like, I want to share the spirit of ham radio, what I feel like makes it interesting, not talking about doctor's appointments and ailments and all that stuff, or the one guys I really kind of have a hard time with it. Like, they're very ego-y. They have their wide radios. They're tons of audio gear, and they're very snobby. And I don't understand that. I'm not. I grew up poor. I've been through the ringer. I mean, we won't even get into all that. But like, I'm lucky to be sober today and have the things that I have, and have a wonderful family, wife, kids, roof over my head, radios. I'm lucky. I probably shouldn't be alive right now. So, but that's kind of my story, and that's how the channel is where it's at. I'm not going to be really doing the live streams anymore because it takes a lot of work. And although Mike in Scotland loves the live streams, and everybody, Eric likes them, Andrews likes to pop in there. Brian, I haven't seen Brian in a long time. I saw Pat pop in a couple of days ago, Scanner Pat. And there is a few other people that pop in regularly. One lady pops in there all the time. I'm trying to remember her name. She's like in there a lot. She always just says hi, and just that's it. There have been lots of people that were regular for a while, but I enjoy the chatter on the live streams, but it's a lot of work for me. If I'm not doing a screen capture with the microphone going, I can't do other things out here. I can't work on radios. I can't talk on the radio. I can't play music. So what I started to do is just stream DMR on the radio for live stream, so that guys would have a chat room to talk in, and DMR would be going in the background. But the YouTube has basically hidden my live stream so where nobody sees it. So I would stream in the vertical feed, so it would show up in the shorts. I don't show up in the shorts feed anymore. They've ghosted me. And when I do a horizontal stream, after 24 hours, my views start to go down. I ended the feed the other day, or maybe the day before. We were at 141 views almost in a 24-hour period, which is terrible. And he started going down. And by the time 5 minutes went by, it was at 130. And I just ended it. But I don't know what's up with that. And it happens every time after 24 hours. They start to roll backwards. I understand that if I log in and out, in and out, in and out, that counts it sometimes. And so they can figure out, well, is all 30 of these are from the same IP address. Okay, let's make these one. But the streams, it's a lot of work, and I don't know. So I'd rather review radios and test out stuff, maybe make videos, show you how to program a radio, show you how to set up this or that, maybe document what I'm doing with the servers or the printers or the computers and that kind of stuff. But we're trying really hard to get to 10,000 subscribers. I eventually want the channel to get big enough to where I can afford to do this and not have to have another source of income. So that's how I got started. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing. And that's a little bit about me. And the name Ham Radio Hack refers to hacking things, making things work, taking broken stuff, fixing it, making it work again. Maybe not necessarily perfectly, maybe more of a shade tree mechanic approach. It has absolutely nothing to do with computers and hacking, nothing. And when they say somebody's a hack job, that's kind of what they're referring to about what I would do. I'm a hack job. I can make things work that other people can't with limited resources. So it's about making do with what you have. Okay? Like MacGyver. Anyway, guys, happy Memorial Day. I don't know what's so happy about it, but we do need to keep in mind and think about stuff like that. And whether or not you agree with anything, there's a bunch of people that died, and they probably died for oil and other things and politics and bad stuff, but they believed that they were doing it for you. And maybe some of them knew what was really going on, but we need to honor those people, and I appreciate their sacrifices. So with that, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching.